there had to be a decision made, and I leaned on her and I got a sign. And I remember walking in my car saying, what do people do without a dead mother? I don't know what the heck I would have done today without her. And then I laughed and I thought, oh my God, you're like crazy, but that's what a really close relationship. So I was going to turn 53, and I'm talking to her and I'm talking to myself and I'm talking to anybody else who's invisible that listens. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to try to run.
Welcome to Zestful Aging Podcast, where I speak with change makers from all over the world, from every walk of life, who will inspire you to live with zest. I'm your host, Nicole Christina, and my mission is to bring you optimism about aging and help you make full use of the new opportunities that only come at this stage of life. And to find out more about this podcast, hop on over to zestfulaging.com. Well, our guest today could not be more timely. I can't wait to talk to her about how to deal with all that is going on. With all the strife and fear around us, many of us are looking and in fact, desperate for a way to find some comfort. I talked to a client of mine last week and she says, I just cry a lot and I just can't stop crying. So we're going to have a great conversation today with my friend Marianne Ruffaro, and she straddles the world of science, medicine, and spirituality. And she just put out a new book called Transitions of Hope. And in it, she shares powerful insights from her decades as a healthcare leader, a caregiver, and a spiritual guide. And she's going to show us how we can replace fear with love and face life's transitions with courage and peace. Welcome to the show, Marianne.
Oh, Nicole, I am so excited to be here. I'm so grateful that you invited me to participate, and I'm just thrilled to share whatever it is that the spirit world wants us to talk about, because we'll both be inspired.
I am so loving that. I don't have to tell you where we are. And I talk to clients, of course, and they're just saying that they feel surrounded by ugliness. They feel surrounded by a fear, and it's a fear that they have not known before. Just this unknown, and some of the actions are just they're kind of mind bending, I guess. And where is our world going, and where's the environment going? What's going to be left for my kids, and all of the stuff everybody is familiar with. And I am so eager to hear how your perspective can be a comfort and some solace for where we are right now.
Yeah. So it is definitely challenging out there. And there is a lot of despair and anger and resentment and confusion and anxiety and all of those kinds of things. But what we know is that when we focus on something, it becomes bigger, and it takes on sometimes a life that is not truly what it appears to be. So one of the things that I live by is that, I truly believe there is a reason for everything. And this is a time of incredible change. And I tell people, try not to have a humanly perspective. And in front of you, you see this world. And in a human's, perspective, the ego, which is totally dedicated to its longevity and prosperity, whether the ego tells us what's true or not. That's kind of that self-talk that goes, rampant in our minds and in our heads, all day long. And so what we see, we tend to, believe. And if you have a spiritual perspective, then I think you can step back and you can say, things are not always what they appear to be. So what I've told a lot of people who are really struggling in these days is I said, the world has disruptors that come and disrupt. And they disrupt in ways that we don't always understand.
Mm.
But if we have faith and trust that the world continually changes, and somehow if we maintain a belief that there is a reason for it and that ultimately at the end it will get better, then we can maintain a more positive attitude. So we can look at the glass as half full instead of half empty, because there is always, always hope. And I tell people, everything kind of starts with thinking, right? With thoughts.
Yes.
We create through our thoughts. And one of the scientific, physiological gifts that we were given is that, we cannot have love and fear present at the exact same time. It is physiologically impossible. And I tell people to do that exercise. Now, I do tell people you can go back and forth at rapid speed between fear and love-based thoughts, because I have a belief that all of our thoughts have their basis in it's a bifurcated system of love and fear. And so when we think and create with fear, that's what ultimately we create the conditions for our life. So if we're constantly focused on things that make us afraid, then we are going to create the conditions for us to continue to be and to be even more afraid than we are today. But if we create the conditions for a joy-filled life, and one of the things I always say is, don't confuse a joy-filled life with an easy life. None of us get away unscathed. Everybody's got crap going on, right? Everybody's dealing with things, within themselves, within the people they love, within, their work or school or whatever it is. Nobody gets out unscathed. But if you could focus on that, which brings joy and love, then you're creating the conditions for a more joy-filled life. So even when it gets difficult, you can see and you can believe and you can create conditions for you to have a more joy-filled life, because you can say to yourself, I don't really know what's true. I don't really know exactly what's going on. So I am going to assume that things are not always what they appear to be, that there's truly a reason for all of this. One in which I totally don't understand, and from the outside looks horrific. However, I don't understand. I don't understand the purpose of all of this. And I don't understand the disruptors that were put in this world, because they seem like there are disruptors who disrupt in a very negative way, and there are disruptors who disrupt in a very positive way. That's very humanistic thinking. From a spiritual standpoint, we really don't know what the outcome is going to be from all this. Will it be a more united society? Will it be a more evolved society? Will it push people to go within themselves and to really focus on self-mastery? I had someone just ask me yesterday in my family, Mare, what's the difference between religious and spirituality? I said, one of them's external and the other is internal. One of them is filled with rules and regulations and dogma and perceived truth that's been carried down from generation and generation. And the other one is a journey you take within yourself.
So let me ask you this just from a practical standpoint. And I hear you. It makes so much sense. But in terms of, I'm going to be really sort of
go for it.
Bolts here, protesting. If we say, as you're suggesting, there's always hope. I don't understand it, but I'm going to have faith and I'm going to act out of love. How does that interact with my actions to say, no, this is not okay?
So I have this belief that unconditional love is not an act of doing. It's an act of being. Okay. And where I get that from is that we were created from the threads of love. We are love. We are love in action. And the purpose of this lifetime is to remember that we are love and to move forward in love. So when you're at whatever crossroads, you say to yourself, what would love do? Would love in this case, because I have this belief, would it be a peaceful protest in which I would share how I feel with all the passion and love and emotion putting forth, having respect for other people, having
Mhm.
respect for people's ability to think differently, having tolerance, being able to forgive. Can I go forth and do that? And the answer is absolutely, that is wonderful. Now, when I see all these paid protesters out there, and some of them, are so vile, but they're getting paid to be vile, that actually kind of bothers me, because I look at that as in someone used an opportunity for the distress in this country to be an opportunist for financial gain, and to pay people to go in and cause all of this grief. That's, to me, that is not what love would do. But would
Mhm.
love be a part of those to verbalize? Yes. However,
Mhm.
love says, everybody thinks differently, and everyone's truth in their authenticity is different. So there needs to be love, forgiveness, tolerance, kindness. If people just lived by those four parameters, the world would be an entirely different
Mm.
place
Mhm.
worldwide. But humanity continues to, repeat historically, and the energy that creates negativity and war and dissension, that energy can never be the energy that fixes it. You can only
Mhm.
fix all of this by pouring love into that situation. And
Mhm.
when you understand that you're loved, then there's nothing more important than taking care of yourself. So if it makes you feel good to get out there, carry a sign, protest because you are passionate and you believe it, but you do it with love and respect, go
Mhm.
for it.
Mm.
But when people do things and destroy property and try to destroy people, well, that's not love in action.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
going back to physiologically, that there can only be, one at a time, love or fear. We can
Mhm.
sit with ourselves and we can do, like, we could think of love based things, like people we love, places we love, events that we have had such incredible love arise from that. And we can feel that with every cell of our body. And then we can feel what fear feels like, what negativity feels like. Think of a time that you were incensed. Think of a time when you were afraid. Think of a time, and it's a completely different feeling. And
Mhm.
that also affects every cell in our body. And our body responds to this. There's our thoughts build highways that are associated. There's emotions and feelings all associated with these thoughts, and negativity will breed more negativity. But if you can learn what that yuck feels like, you can
Mhm.
stop, you can be mindful, and you can say, all right, I got to get rid of it. And I did it. I had an exercise that people are going to think I'm nuts. Okay, let me tell you what I did. When I was my niece, I was 16 when she was born. I was at her 30th birthday party. I was 46 years old. So that's 30, right? I'm 66, long time ago,
Mhm.
20 years ago. And I was winded when I was dancing, and I love to dance. It makes me happy. And I thought, oh my gosh, what is this? I am way too young to have any of this. I never had this before. So I came home, and then I dedicated myself to exercise and, healthier living and healthier everything. However, I started walking on this treadmill, and it was an old treadmill I had. It was a little rickety and it was a little shaky. And I would try to walk really fast, and I could feel the fear that I was going to fall off. And I
Mhm.
thought, this is a wonderful example of me being afraid. So I would make it so I was afraid, and then I would say to myself, okay, calm, calm. You don't have to be afraid. And believe it or not, I would do that every day for, I don't know how long I did it, because then I started running when I was in my early 50s. Um, and I don't know why, for me, that worked. I'd be at work and I would feel this, whatever in my body, and I would go, oh, fear. What
Mm.
off? What's making me angry? What's making me scared? What's giving me anxiety? What's making me worry? Okay, get rid of it. Let it go. Make it come out
Mhm.
your feet into the ground. Let Mother Earth eat it up. And,
Mhm.
and then I'm like, come on, change your mind, change it. And this was probably, well, this was a long time ago, and over 20 years. And so then I slowly began to learn, so that, it's like anything. The more you do it, the more you practice.
Mm.
So it's like you could immediately say to yourself, oh, feeling ugly. This isn't good. This isn't good for me because it doesn't solve anything in this world. It doesn't change it. It doesn't make the political landscape become better by being upset about it. All that does is goof up our internal cells, right? It
Mhm.
breaks our body. It makes us vibrate to a different frequency. We
Mhm.
want to vibrate at a frequency where health and wellness is all that is sustainable. And that is a very loving, positive environment because we know that stress has awful effects on the body.
Mhm.
And some stress is very evident, the flight or fight, but that slow burn every day that just it's like picking a scab, it eventually wears our immune defenses down. So,
Mhm.
we one thing we have is so much power within ourselves to think, for choices, to think the way we want to think. And if we could learn to harness that in our best interest, it is not selfish to take good care of ourselves. It is imperative because I always say when the well's dry, nobody gets, their thirst quenched. So it
Mhm.
is imperative to take care of ourselves. And so
Mhm.
this really led me, I mean, even in my 23 years at Hematology Oncology Associates, I tried desperately to get these messages across to everyone because, first of all, it was an environment where you witnessed human frailty,
Mm.
resilience, strength, and courage. It like, I mean, you just saw people who were just working so hard at getting through all of the challenges that they had. And those challenges that the patients and their caregivers were going through, of course, affected the employees, right? So
Mhm.
I tried very hard so that we created a culture of self mastery. Because, when I got there, there was maybe 150 employees. There was like over 350 when I left. And I remember thinking, you know, what what can I do? These are incredibly skilled and trained and
Mm.
fabulous physicians and nurses and laboratory personnel and everybody. And I thought, but if everyone saw how perfect they really were inside and if they recognized their own divinity and they really loved who they were, then when they got here, they would be more resilient and they would be more of a beacon of hope. And so, really, in a very slow way, every month at our staff meetings that we had when I first got there, in the beginning, I talked about business principles. And then slowly I reverted to spiritual principles that had nothing to do with any
Mhm.
kind of religious affiliation. They had
Mm.
nothing to do, they were all self mastery thoughts.
How did the
Things,
physicians receive that message?
well, first of all, they were always too busy to attend my meetings. The few times they did, they loved them. But what the physicians witnessed was a culture that changed. Within a year or two, it was almost completely different than it was before I got there. They saw happy employees. They saw teamwork. They saw things getting better. Patients would come in. We had a patient once who said, "What do you put like happy pills in the water or something here? Like, why are people happy?" I had a patient's wife call me once. He was diagnosed with lung cancer, and one of our docs was double boarded in palliative care. And she called me as the CEO beside herself, thinking that the reason why she was seeing him is because someone thought her husband was going to die and put him in with this palliative care physician. And I had to explain to her that no, 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 he's double boarded. When that time comes in life, he has a little extra skill set. However, no, absolutely not. And so at her first visit, I met them and made sure that they were calm and everything. They had a good visit. And she called me a couple of weeks later and she said, "Marianne, I just wanted to call you to tell you that my husband and I walked out and we were like skipping. We were
Mm.
so thrilled of this plan for his chemo and for like radiation." And she goes, "And we got to the car and we looked at each other and said, wait, why are we happy? I
Mhm.
got cancer. I could die." And they said, "But you know what? There's just so much hope." And I'm just thrilled at what this journey is going to hopefully happen. And so hope is this beautiful thing, right? And I was so touched that she called me to tell me that because that's really what happens through any adversity, right? It's the journey of hope. And I talk about this in my book because the elevation, the slope of hope can be very high during a journey like that, with the outcome completely different. And I use my former husband, who, we were the best of friends, and he still means the world to me. And I was with him throughout this entire journey. In the beginning, you have incredible hope that it will resolve, it will go into remission, it will cure.
Mm.
And then when you get through the end of that journey, he had pancreatic stage 4, and he died within 8 months. And at the end of the journey, we had great hope again. But this time it was for a peaceful, loving, and pain-free transition. So
Mhm.
your slope of hope is still high. It was a roller coaster through those 8 months, but you always have hope for the cure, hope for, okay, it's not going to be a cure, hope for good quality of life. Okay, hope for a long, good quality. Okay,
Mm.
it's not going to be long, hope for short, good quality of life. Okay, we've exhausted every possibility. Hope for a beautiful, peaceful death with acceptance and love by all. So, you know, um, I wrote this book. It's probably almost every skill set or tidbit of knowledge I've acquired through almost my whole life. And my mom died when I was very young at 14. When I was 7, she had a benign brain tumor. So she came home looking like a totally different person. And I tell this
Mm.
story, also tell the story of how important it is to be honest with children, because what I was told, it was no big deal. And then I
Mm.
watched this woman get out of a car with no hair, whose mouth is crooked, whose hand motions are like all over the place. And I was
Mm.
petrified. I threw myself under my bed. I was like, I don't even know who that is, because my mom was like, no, don't worry, I'm just going to have a little cut behind my ear, it's no big deal. And I
Oh,
understand what she was doing. She was trying to not make me afraid. But
right.
so I discuss so many things in this book. um, and then, because I felt that it was so timely for all the unhappiness and all the anxiety and everything that's going on in this world, I thought, you know what, I'm retired now, and I got a lot of energy, and I got a lot of things to say, as you notice today, and so does everybody else. They're like, "Oh my God, has she taken a breath?" No, I don't really have to. But in any event, I thought, you know what? Okay, I'm going to do this podcast. I'm going to pay someone to help me. And it's interesting, Clickstream is helping me. They're beautiful people. And Matt says to me, is the purpose to sell the books? I said, no.
Mm.
I said, the purpose is to make the world a better place, one person at a time, from the inside out, because there's so much hurting out there, and we've got to
Mhm.
get
Your
ourselves back.
gift. It's your gift
We've
to,
got to
yeah.
get back to, like, we are love. There is a reason for everything. Things are not always what they appear to be. And we have to take care of ourselves, because effectuate the things you can change, and accept, those things that you can't. You don't have to accept them quietly, but accept them with love, reverence, respect, dignity, tolerance.
Well, if you've followed me for a while, you know I am extremely picky about sponsorships and endorsements. So when I decide to share something with the Zestful Aging audience, you know it's worth talking about. Recently, I've been an evangelist for a revolutionary method of navigating difficult emotions. When my friend introduced me to this neurographic art at our craft group, I thought to myself, now that's an ugly drawing, and I will not be drawing that. I didn't understand at the time that neurographic art is not about making pretty pictures. It's actually a technique that utilizes neuroplasticity, psychology, art therapy, and neurophysiology, and you only need paper and colored pencils. Although I've been doing it so much, I just ordered an electric pencil sharpener. So, a little backstory: neurographic art was developed in Russia by a psychiatrist who's also an artist, and it's only found its way to the US in the last few years. And I cannot say enough about how helpful and clarifying this technique is. So what I'd love you to do is check out Mindful Line. That's MindfulLine.com. And there's all kinds of things that you can join. Now, if you decide you'd like to purchase a course, please use mindfulline.com/zestful aging, because this link will give you a special discount. So whatever you purchase, it would be for your lifetime, and the cost or the fee is not just for the first month. And you're also going to get a special bonus masterclass. So even if you don't want to purchase anything, I highly recommend you familiarize yourself with this really cool technique that I can't stop talking about. Check out Mindful Line and happy drawing. I would love to hear what you've discovered. Let me ask you about the running, because I've been following you for quite a while, and that has been a pretty big part of your life. And I'm wondering what happens
Yeah.
during those runs, and are they connected with some of the things that you're talking about right now?
Absolutely. So let me tell you how it all started. I always loved to watch runners, and I loved to run when I was a kid, but I mean like running down the driveway and, running to school. And I never thought I could run. I just didn't think I had it in me. One time when I was 16, I remember I thought my legs were too big. I wrapped them in, saran wrap. I put on sweatpants. I went for a run. I made it one block. My aunt saw me running by. She called later to see if I was still alive. So I always said to myself, I just don't have it in me. I just don't have the ability to do it. So my mom died when she was 53 years old. So when I was getting around 52, I thought, I want to do something to give thanks that my life is going to last longer than hers. And I always communicated with her anyways, because from 7 to 14, the years between her surgery and when she died, she knew exactly what was going on. And she was really my first self-mastery guru. As Catholic as she was, with her devotion to the Blessed Mother and Jesus and her daily rosary, she actually was quite spiritual, hardly ever went to church, and didn't really eat the dogma. She was just very much in that personal relationship and knowing that death did not exist. And so she talked to me and taught me so much. And so I have had her, she's been an incredibly important part of every moment of my life. I can remember once being a VP at Krause, and we had to pick, there had to be a decision made, and I leaned on her and I got a sign, and I remember walking in my car saying, what do people do without a dead mother? I don't know what the heck I would have done today without her. And then I laughed and I thought, oh my God, you're like crazy, but that's what a really close relationship. So I was going to turn 53, and I'm talking to her and I'm talking to myself and I'm talking to anybody else who's invisible that listens. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to try to run. And I've got this beautiful group of high school friends, and we get together every year since we turned 50. And they wanted to run the Boilermaker in Utica. It was 9 miles. So I said to them, you know what? I'll run it. I'll train for 2 years. And they all started laughing. They're like, Marian, you're not going to train for 2 years. This was like the fall. And they're like, we're doing it in July. So you got from now until July to figure out how you're going to run 9.2
And this,
miles.
for people who don't know this is a treacherous run.
It's got some hills to it, right? So okay, I think to myself, all right, I'm going to start running. Me and you, Mom, we're going to do this. I'm 53 now, and I'm living longer than you, and I'm strong, and let's go. So I'll never forget the first run I went on. I thought I was going to die. The second one got better. The third one got better. And probably after like the fourth one, my husband was like, how far do you think you ran? I'm like, I have no idea. He goes, come on, let's get in the car. Well, and I had run 3 miles. And then I was like, okay, I can do this. And then there was this longevity. It was for lung cancer run. Oh my gosh. I came in second in my age group. And
wow.
got a trophy. Now, I gotta tell you,
were you hooked?
that was it. I had that trophy in my hand, and I thought, oh my God, I got a trophy. This is it.
Yeah.
I'm going to start running. So now this is the funny part. That day, it was in the fall, and my husband and I went to the Italian Fest, and we were sitting down listening to music, and I went to get up. I couldn't move, and I could hardly cross the street. And he's like, wait a minute, you ran your like tail off today, and how could you not cross the street? So I thought, okay, I got bad form. I gotta somehow figure out how I'm going to do this. So I start searching elite running form, and somehow Chi Running pops up. And Danny Dwyer, who founded Chi Running, he combines philosophies of Tai Chi with running, who was injured like all the years he was injured before he did this. And since he's been a Chi runner, which is now, I don't know, 50 or 60 years, he's in his late 70s. He comes in first in his age group, and he's injury free. So I got choked up when I saw his video. So now that's a sign for me that something's going on inside, right? Because who gets choked up watching a running video when they don't run? So now I buy his books, I buy the videos, I try to teach myself, and I realize, I probably need some instruction. So I go to Kripalu for a week,
Mm.
take the course with Danny. And it's hysterical when I first meet him, because here I think he's like my best friend, because, he's been in my life. He has no idea who I am. So I see him and I'm like, Danny, hi. And he's looking at me like, uh-huh, uh-huh. So in
Yeah.
any event, come forward. I became a Chi running instructor, because when I took my lessons, I came back to Syracuse and there was no one who could check my form and see how I was doing. There were a couple of Chi running people that were certified in New York City, and that's it. And I thought, well, okay, now I'm going to do this. So I went on this whole journey to be certified. And honestly, that is why I can run today, because of Chi running, because it is using every body part the way it was created. Being of like a science background, I truly understood all the physiology, and it's injury prevention, and it's energy efficient. And when I started running with the right form, I never had pain. The injuries I have sustained have been from things other than running.
I wonder if they have Chi pickleball, because
Well,
that's what I need.
it's funny. I've often
Yeah.
thought, like even when I was golfing, I was like, what principles of my Chi running can I put in here? And the only thing I could think of is relaxing, because we tense up, and that's what, like in Chi running, the only muscles that are engaged are your lower abdominals. The rest of your body is very like fluid, but you have to have perfect form, and you can't heel strike. And 90% of runners are heel strikers. And when I used to teach, which I'm going to get back to it probably, I would say to people, how many think they're, heel striker? Oh, not me. Oh, not me. And then I video them in slow motion, and 9 out of 10 are not, always like heel strikers, which made them get injured. So anyways, so then I ran that Boilermaker, and then I thought, well, hey, I'll do a half marathon. And then this woman said to me, Marion, you did a half marathon, wouldn't you like to run a full? And I'm like, oh, I don't think I ever could. And she, oh, but just one. Well, here I am, 66. I've run 6 marathons and probably 55 or more half marathons, and a ton of, and as I'm sitting and talking to you, I'm looking over at all the medals hanging and all the things and the longer, it's interesting. I've gotten information on the books I was going to write while I was running. I've gotten insights. Even one day I was running and I could see my shadow, in front of me. And I was just thinking, that shadow, that's where all the opportunity is, our shadow self and blah, blah, blah. And then when I turned the corner, I noticed when the sun was in front of me, the shadow was behind. And I thought, oh, is this not profound? Fill that shadow with light, which love, and your shadow goes behind you. And so, there's been so many things through running. And then I have to tell you, on May 31st of last year, I thought it was a good idea to lift 8 5-gallon drums of water and twist them up on a ledge. And like an idiot, I didn't do it once, I did it 8 times. And I have which is still there, but getting better, because I finally had an injection in my spine a couple of weeks ago. I have a bulging herniated, and I have not been able to run. And so then through these months of not running, and when you tell someone like me they can't run, it really is difficult.
Mhm.
So now
Mm.
I'm like, okay. So now I look back at like 8 months and I think, oh my God, I can't even believe that I stayed positive. I didn't get depressed. I found other things to do. I found the strength to still do all the outside stuff that I was doing. Oh my gosh, I can't even believe. And then I contemplated relentlessly, like, what am I supposed to learn from this? What am I?
Mm.
And I can't even express all the things I've learned from being injured. I've really had such a heightened awareness of those people who struggle with chronic pain and just struggle anyways.
Yes.
And I have such a greater appreciation for everything. But also, too, I have still received all the messages that I always did, and I don't have to run. And I think that was another lesson. Like, Marianne, that running had you calm something within yourself so that you could raise your vibration to hear what spirit was saying. And now you just know how to meditate and do it. You can do it sitting down. You can do it like in an instant. And so,
Mhm.
I mean, am I really hoping in the spring? Yeah, I got to start all over again. Start all
Yeah.
over again however, I'm optimistic, but I will say that, oh my Lord, that has really, I have never experienced such pain in all my life and such
Mhm.
debilitating experiences. And I went to Italy as a gift to myself on an immersion trip because I'm trying to learn the language more fluently than I mean, I'm not really not good at all, but I've been working on it for years. And, I went with the sore leg and a sore hip, and somehow I made it through, and I carried my backpack and whatever. But as I went through the airport and I saw people struggling and I saw people bent over, I had an
Mhm.
incredible amount of love for them that I would have never had before had I not experienced this. So, I try to practice what I preach. I try to try to find the positive, stay positive. I mean, I've had people ask my kids, "Is your mother, how's her mental status? Because she's not running," and they're like, "She's really
Mhm.
okay." So, I mean, those are the life lessons, right?
Mhm. Yes, yes, yes. Do you want to tell people where they can hear more, find out more
Oh, I
about
would
your
love
work?
to. So I
Okay.
just completed the audiobook recording. It was G&D Recording actually picked up the audiobook, and they gave me a choice of a male, a female, or I could read it. So I wanted to read it. So that should be out in about a month from now, the audiobook, but it's all on Amazon. Audible will be there in about a month, Kindle and written version, and my other books are there too. And then my podcast is you can put in Transitions of Hope or my name in YouTube, and then you could actually see. I mean, I hate looking at myself. I hate everything, hearing myself, looking at myself, but nonetheless, talked me into doing the YouTube thing, so I do. And then
Mhm.
the podcast is on all the platforms: Spotify, Apple, Amazon,
Mhm.
all of them.
Mhm.
iHeartRadio, and it's just called Transitions of Hope. And
Right.
there's a Transition of Hope page on Facebook and on Instagram, and they take little snippets from my podcast and they post them all the time. And I go on and I'm like, oh my God, there I am again. But in any event, I really do hope that the feedback I have received has been positive. I there not everybody will like my book. Those very living in structure, very much dogmatic in their beliefs, will probably have trouble with some of the things I talk about, and that's okay because that book's not for everybody. But I think I Googled it the other day. There's 350 million people in the world who are depressed. And I just think
Oh,
there's so
wow.
much anger and hatred and
Oh.
dissension and confusion and all of that. There's just so much that whatever we're all doing, it's probably something needs to change a little bit because it's not really
Mhm.
working perfectly. And so
Boy, is that yeah.
yeah. So, and that's where I say, you know what, for those people who want to, and self mastery is just really a self discovery, self actualization, realizing, really paying attention to how we think, how we create the conditions for our life to go forth, how we got where we are, forgiving the wounds. No one's ever going to heal the wounds of things that we think people did, something to us. How
Mhm.
forgiveness is really It doesn't have to be a two-way street. You got to rid yourself of that negative energy. So that's self-mastery, is just really walking into your truth, more and more understanding, and then understanding the role of spirit and ego, and allowing spirit to have more influence than your ego does.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much
Nicole,
for.
I can't thank you enough, and I am so grateful, and I've had so much fun on this, and
Aw,
thank you so very much.
it's been lovely to hear your messages. Certainly, the time is right, and I wish you all the best in all of your media endeavors.
Thank you. I wish you the same too. Your Zestful Aging is an incredibly wonderful podcast for
Aw,
people, and aging is
thank
just one of
you.
those things that, I'm trying like heck to play beat the clock. So, using
Oh,
everything I can.
oh, thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks,
Okay.
everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. If you like the podcast, please share it with some of your friends.
Our theme song is All I Did Was Wait for You by Kjartan Abel. Visit Kjartan-Abel, that's KJARTAN-Abel, ABEL.com to hear more of Kjartan's work. And our technical director is Stephen Litweiler.
And stay tuned next week for another interview with a fascinating and inspiring guest. See you then.